Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Martinson, and I'm glad you're here to join me for session 5. Today, we're going to be talking about learning adventures. But before we do, I want to follow up on our last assignment from last week, which is setting up your learning space. I'm wondering if you were able to get any of that done, if you went with a Alice in Wonderland theme, and what it looks like. You can share pictures in our community and your comments, and share with us what you've been able to do. And we can give you some support, and maybe you can see some other people's learning spaces as well. All right, so for today's theme, for today's topic, with the learning adventures, I'm going to share my screen. So there are learning adventures is basically learning everywhere and anywhere, and they can happen. Really, it can start in your home. Learning does not have to be only at school time. I'm sure you know that already, but it can happen in your daily life, in your everyday experiences, and everywhere else as well. So in your home, things that you're already doing, you're cooking, you're shopping, you're traveling, you're doing chores, you're playing games, you're reading. These are all things that you should already be doing, but all of these can be turned into learning experiences as you point out what's available to your children to learn. For example, when you're cooking, you could talk about fractions and how, we're going to double this recipe. It calls for a quarter cup. How much is it if we need twice as much? When you go shopping, we need this much for this recipe, but the package only has this much in it. How many packages do we need? When you go traveling, how far is it? All of these are math examples, but there's also reading involved in these things. There's also creativity involved when you're doing cooking. A lot of times there's a creative element to that as well. When you're traveling, you get to learn cultures, and there's often an amount of science that's involved there. Chores, oh my goodness, you get into those chemicals, you've got some science. Talk about games. Those are great for our critical thinking and problem solving. So there's learning that's probably already happening ever since your children were born, that you've been having these experiences with your kids and making them into things that they can learn from. Just like when they're little, you say, hand me the blue pencil, and that's how they learn their colors. As they get older, it's more of the complex things that we talked about, like cooking and shopping, but their learning opportunities are everywhere. You don't want to make it heavy. You don't want to make it hard. Keep it light, keep it fun, keep it interesting. Your child and what they're capable of doing. You can give them that little bit that's going to stretch them and help them understand just a little bit better. So then I want to share with you a little bit about what it was like for me when I was a child. We used to go on adventures all the time. We would go on trips. This picture right here is a picture of one time we went camping, and we went on a hike, and we came across this trough that we started off, just got our hands in it. It was a hot day. We got our hands in it. We're splashing around. The 3 older kids and sat up on the edge. I'm the first one here, the little blonde, and we were just having a blast playing in that water. Eventually, of course, you know what happened. We were all completely in the water, completely drenched, soaked to the bone. And, what a great experience, a memorable experience. And that's the thing. When you're having excursions with your kids, you're learning with all of your senses, and you see the colors, you smell, there's smells, there's temperature, there's so much involved in being outside in the real world and touching real things. And everything becomes an unforgettable experience. And unforgettable means something was learned, right? That's when you learn something, it's something you're going to remember. Unforgettable experiences those are the opportunities when you're learning. So when you go on excursions, you engage all the senses, and you have those unforgettable experiences. So one of the things you can do is, of course, go to the library. And this is something you want to do frequently, because as you're researching a lot of different things, the library has great resources. And yes, you can do online researches. I'm not saying don't. What I'm saying is books are fabulous, and they've got the pictures, and you're providing a print-rich environment for your kids to be exposed to all the reading and the words in print. But you can go with your children to choose books. Take them, if you're studying a particular topic, go to that section in the library and pull out a few books and let them choose the ones that they find most interesting. You can also select some books that you think are interesting, that you would like to know more about, and you can share what you learned with your kids. And you'll find the same thing happens with your kids. They're from the books that they choose, or even the books that you choose and they read. They're going to be pulling information out, and they're going to telling you that they're going to be so excited. They're going to be like, Mom, did you know? Look at this thing. Or it's going to be an opportunity for them to learn to read when there's a picture of something and there's a caption underneath. They don't quite understand the words that are there, and they ask you to read and explain it to them. That's a learning opportunity. But not only about the topics that you're reading, but also you can get some nonfiction books, but fiction as well. Whatever the children enjoy reading, those are the books that they should be getting, right? Don't discourage them from getting books that are outside their reading levels as well. So other activities you can do: nature walks, museums, parks, historical sites. You can interview experts, take polls. Something I like about going to museums or nature centers is there's often a docent there, and the docents, they love sharing information. So if your kids go with questions, then they can ask. These docents are usually so willing to tell you even more information that's normally on the tour. They might even show you some behind the scenes things and share some of their own personal experiences. It just makes it really come alive for them. Then also taking polls. You can take your children to a public place and with a specific thing, which do you like better, tacos or burritos? And then they can just randomly ask people. People enjoy being interrupted by kids and asking random questions and then answering. And then go ahead and take that information back home, to create charts and graphs, and turn it into something interesting for your kids. Then try something new. Break out of your comfort zone, something you've never done before, something your kids have never done before. Go ahead, and it doesn't have to just be the standard museums and nature centers, but what's unique about your town? What are some things that nobody else in the rest of the state has? Go find those things and try out the things that are unique and different about your own area. And as you're experiencing all these different things, you're going to touch on all the different school subjects, plus all the non-school subjects, some of the soft skills that your kids are going up to strangers with you around, but going up to strangers and asking them polling questions is some soft skills, right? About being practicing people skills and that sort of thing, and confidence and presentation and these types of skills that you want that don't show up on the tests at school, right? All of these experiences are, and on top of that, the point of all these adventures is to spark their learning, to help them ask questions, right? To want to know more. And of course, when possible, try going on these trips with friends. When I was raising my kids, we went on field trips. We went on 2 field trips a month with our homeschool friends, and that was invaluable. The other 2 Wednesdays each month, we went to park days. And so these were friends that my kids made, friends that they made back all the way back then, that they still keep in contact with today. Now that they're all adults, they still keep in contact with their homeschool friends that they grew up having these experiences with. But even then, sometimes when my kids, because they've been on so many field trips growing up, there came a point where they're just like, oh, I don't know, do I really want to go? And I'm like, well, Susan's going to be there. And they're like, oh, y'all go. And it's just more fun to share the experience with friends. And so they look forward to it. And while you're on having these adventures, go ahead and be spontaneous. Allow curiosity to guide you and help you go toward the questions that you ask. Maybe there's something, a different path you want to take, or just look for those serendipitous opportunities to learn. If you can't get all your questions answered while you're having your adventures, then write them down, save them for later, and look up the information when you get home. You don't have to do too much. You don't have to do everything all at once, right? You need to keep it simple. And of course, the adventures do come with challenges, but the challenges that come, it's too hot, it's raining, all of these things. We've had one of the best field trips we ever had was at Riley's farm, where they do these Revolutionary War reenactments, and it was snowing just a little bit because it's up higher in elevation. And our kids were freezing cold, but they didn't want to miss anything because they were having a great time reenacting the Revolutionary War. And so they were bundled up and they're out there with their sticks for guns and doing the whole thing. But of course, what is it? It instead of staying home and being bummed that you missed the experience, they went and they had an unforgettable experience, right? Again, there's things being learned, and it was even more impactful, more profound because there was the weather going on, right? And also let your children help you overcome the challenges, whatever challenges come in the way of your learning adventures. They have some ideas too. So give them the opportunity to problem solve and so forth. And I do want to warn you to keep adventures adventurous. I don't want it to turn into school at the park or school at the zoo or school. It's not that we're schooling them. They are learning naturally and normally because there are so many wonderful things that they want to know about it. But as long as the adventures are coming, they're going to be sparked with all their questions. Their imagination is going to go. Their questions are going to come, and they're just going to want to know more. And they're going to take an interest in these things that they're being presented with, and they're going to take some time to actually do some research on their own. So once you do get home, you can do these things on the spot, but it's not always possible because you're so busy. But if you can remember some of the things you really wanted to learn about while you're on the adventures, once you get home, you can Google things, you can talk to AI, you can call grandma if it was something about your town back 100, maybe not 100 years ago, but historically, what was it like for your grandmother in this time period? So forth. And you can be research at home. Your kids can be the backyard scientists. One of the things I like to do with the kids is have them get a hula hoop or some type of large frame that they set down on the ground. And then they look at every little bug, creature, and blade of grass and dirt, everything that's in that frame, and write down questions about them or what their observations are about them, and then go do some research about them. Of course, there's the front yard mathematician, and this is where the kids have the opportunity they sit in front of their house and count all the cars, and not just counting cars, but also the color of each car and tally those, and the cars that go past, and keep track over time how many cars of each color, how many cars, what's the most popular car color, and chart that and make graphs and so forth. And they could even start to estimate what they think the next car color will be. So also as backyard scientists, the kids can watch for birds. How many birds of a certain kind do they see at a time, or how many different kinds of birds they see, right? There's so many opportunities everywhere. How often should you go on field trips or outings, adventures? It's up to you. It really is up to you. Every family has their own vibe. Every child has their own vibe. If you have more than one kid, you might have to do a balancing act between a really active kid and one that just wants to snuggle with a book. But make it a family thing, and so that you go out together and you enjoy time together. But I do recommend, because it works so well for us, to go on 2 outings a month. And this didn't count the library. This is besides the library. We went on 2 outings a month, and I think it was really nice, because I think it would have been too much for me if it was every week. It just would have been, oh, dang it, we have to go again. But so you decide, and it does, again, keep it fun, keep it interesting. Don't make it heavy and boring and schoolish, right? So I want to point out that in our fireworks, in the courses section, and when you go to the fireworks and you download those, each week has some ideas for outings that you can go on. So this one right here, this is from an upcoming topic called Asian lore. And so one of the suggestions is to enjoy a meal at an Asian restaurant. Another idea here, because this one is going to be the last week before Christmas, it says take an evening walk or drive to look at holiday decorations. So a little bit of the season dropped in there. So you can find those in each week's fireworks ideas. Also, for 18 years, I ran classes. Celebration Education was classes that we held at actual locations throughout Southern California. And what we did there was introduce the week's topic through fun, hands-on, collaborative activities. So workshop classes are a lot of fun, and I'm not running those classes anymore, but I do help other people who want to start running classes. And so that is, I think that's everything. Let's see, last slide. Enjoy, right? Like I said, make it fun, make it interesting, keep it light, don't make it heavy, and just have a blast with this, right? So let's see, there we go. So your assignment for this session is in the Alice in Wonderland theme, is to go to the library and get some books on animals, and also take your child to a zoo or a pet store even. See if you can find any of the animals that are mentioned in the Alice in Wonderland story. And a pet store has got to have a rabbit, right? And that maybe you could find something like a turtle, or one of the, what about a dodo bird? Maybe you can send your child on a snipe hunt looking for the dodo bird. Anyway, there's so many opportunities. I hope you guys have a fabulous time. The next topic, the next session is about what you do, is more about what you do after the adventures, because then is when we can dive into the big old projects. And it doesn't have to be big old projects, the big projects and the little projects, all the little projects that make up the learning. After their learning has been ignited, sparked and ignited, then we're going to do the fireworks that just turn into a bonfire where the kids can take, I don't want to go to it too much. They're going to take the lead in their education. It's going to be a lot of fun. So yes, we'll see you next time in session 6 about using projects for learning. All right, then I'll see you then. Bye.